Hi everyone, we're now moving on to chapter 7 of the novella, which is the shortest chapter in the entire text, and it's called Incident at the Window. So today's video probably won't be very long. The chapter takes place on another Sunday when Utterson and Enfield are out a walk, and they decide to stop by and speak to Jekyll because they happen to walk by the door that started this all off. Remember, chapter 1 is the story of the door. And they kind of speak to each other, but I didn't realise that that door was connected to Jekyll's laboratory at the back. So they go into a little by street and they find Jekyll sitting at a window just inside his lab, and the window is kind of half shut. What's interesting is before that, Utterson and Enfield share a couple of different opinions about Hyde, and one that we should take note of is that Utterson says, "Did I ever tell you that I once saw him and shared your feeling of repulsion?" So we've talked before about this idea that anyone who interacts with Hyde can immediately sense his evil in such a way that they are repulsed and disgusted by him. He's described as being troglodytic in an earlier chapter and also having some sense of deformity. So this repulsion is the impact that Hyde's evil can have on regular, normal, good-doing individuals in the society. They then go to actually start to speak to Jekyll. And what's interesting, at the top of page 26 is a little simile to describe Jekyll, and it describes him as sitting there like some disconsolate prisoner. Utterson saw Dr. Jekyll. Now this little simile is important because the concept of a prisoner is really important for Jekyll at this stage in the novella. Hyde is essentially keeping him prisoner because he's not able to leave his house, because he doesn't really believe that he can control the power of Hyde's evil. So it's a simple simile to describe obviously him being dejected, isolated and alone, but it has some further connotations about the power that Hyde has over Jekyll at this stage in the novella. It's also interesting that later on we have a repetition from Dr. Jekyll where he says, "No, no, no, it is quite impossible, I dare not." So he's almost telling himself this. He doesn't dare leaving the lab because he doesn't know if Hyde will take control at any moment. So he's selling it at this point as him just being ill, that I can't go out, I might be sick. But actually it's a much graver scenario that he doesn't know if he can maintain his own sense of identity, and he fears that Hyde could take control at any point. Now, we've yet to reach the actual incident. So the incident at the window, the name of the chapter, is just about to happen. As they're having this little conversation back and forth, Jekyll starts to change in his face. Now, he had a smile on his face, and there's a really good quote just towards the end of the chapter. It says, "Before the smile was struck out of his face and succeeded by an expression of abject terror and despair." So basically, Jekyll is standing at the window speaking to Utterson and Enfield, and he inside starts to feel that Hyde is about to take control. So that changes his smile. Now the verb choice, quite a violent verb, and the smile was struck out of his face, is an interesting choice of verb. If this extract were to come up in an exam, you could zoom in and talk about the fact that that verb almost suggests that there's another character striking the smile from his face, and we can assume that other character is Hyde taking control. Now the two men see this. Utterson and Enfield see his face immediately change, and the expressions start to change to abject terror and despair. And it freezes the very blood of the two gentlemen. It's so scary and so disgusting and repulsive to see this. So there is some suggestion here that they actually almost witness a glimpse of Jekyll transforming into Hyde. They see his face change to horror and despair, but perhaps they see the glimpse of the start of the transformation that they might have seen if they were to hang around a little bit longer. The end of the chapter is also exceptionally important because the two men walk away in silence. So Utterson and Enfield walk away, and Jekyll slams the window shut, retreats back into the lab, and presumably maybe starts to change into Hyde. Utterson and Enfield walk away from this not aware that that's what's happening, but they say to themselves, or Utterson says to himself, "God forgive us, God forgive us." So he almost feels guilty for having seen something so awful. It's quite an interesting response. He's looking for forgiveness from God, and remember the context of the Victorian era, the Christian piety that was expected from all Victorian gentlemen. He feels, just by having witnessed this, that he has committed a sin. Okay, so we talked before about Hyde's impact on others and how he makes them feel and repulsed, but it seems like even seeing the possible change of Jekyll into Hyde makes Utterson feel like he's committed a grave sin. And that's the end of the chapter, but it gives a clear indication, or a subtle indication really, that Hyde is beginning to take more control over Jekyll, and Jekyll is losing really his ability to maintain any form of control over his dual nature. Okay, we'll move on to the next chapter, which is the last night next week. But it's a short chapter. Make sure you annotate and highlight those quotations. Thanks.